guys, so this is going to be part 2. It was kind of thundering out and it looked like it was really going to rain a lot. So I came in, took a little break, and brought all my stuff upstairs. I'm going to finish up the video up here. So I know I don't get, poured on. Like I said, I don't mind a little sprinkle, but some of it, like the books and stuff, I didn't really want to get all wet. So, hold on one second. Okay. So, while we were on our little break, which hopefully you did not perceive, I did look up, because it was driving me crazy, the thorns here are from the Hawthorn Tree. And they are very sharp, so I always keep them in something. This is a metal bowl that I have them in right now. And I believe they are grown someplace up here, but they're not very native to, the eastern United States. They were really big in Ireland and that kind of thing for the Druids. So a couple things. First of all, hawthorn is really good for a lot of different things. You have to keep in mind, though, that you cannot cut a branch from a hawthorn tree. You really need to wait till it drops a branch. And the reason is the hawthorn tree is the most common home for the fae. And they get very upset if someone cuts a branch from the hawthorn tree. There's like very old poems and traditions about how the fae will haunt you, and it's really a bad idea. So do not cut any branches from the hawthorn tree. What you can do if you have a hawthorn tree near you, the hawthorn berries are used for a lot of magical uses, and the tree itself, the thorn part of the branches can be used for protection spells and that kind of thing also. Eyeliner terrible. But you can leave an offering to the fae. And when they feel like you have left enough offering and they agree with whatever it is you want to use it for, they may drop you a branch. So that's it. That's all you can do. Or wait for a storm, in which case the fae will, drop a branch for you also. But it's definitely not something you want to mess with. Do not cut a branch. Just as a little aside. Okay, so where was I? The thing, again, with beginning in your journey, your path of being a witch, is to look around you and figure out there's little things that... if you keep your eyes open and your mind open in constantly thinking, okay, I want the goddess to put some things in my path that I can use today. And all of a sudden things will be put in your path. And for the life of me, I was looking for something specific, and I thought maybe it would be up here. But I don't think it is. So one of the things that I found, and these are some of these tips I haven't shared a whole lot because it's terrible. I feel like if a whole bunch of people know about them, then these stores and stuff will get wise to the uses, the different kinds of uses there are for this kind of stuff, and raise the prices. Like I'm going to have that much impact. But one of the things is pink Himalayan salt is an incredible magical tool for sure. It is great at dispelling negative energy. You'll see that's what the salt lamps are made out of most of the time, are pink Himalayan salt. They look kind of orangey or pinky, peachy, and that's usually what they're made out of. I have a huge basket full, and of course now when I want it, I can't find it. And I have slowly used it. It takes me about a year usually to use the bucket full that I get. And what you can do is look for salt lick for deer. I found it in Walmart. I believe it's a 1 pound bucket. It might be a 5 pound bucket though, because I'm terrible with weights and measures and math. But it comes, it's about this big, and it's packed full of huge chunks of pink Himalayan salt. So you go to Walmart, you look into, usually it's like in the hunting section, which I don't spend a whole lot of time in the hunting section, and look for salt lick for deer, and look on the back, the ingredients, it will say Himalayan pink salt. And they come in these big chunks of pink Himalayan salt, and that's exactly what it is. And it was really cheap. I think I paid less than $10 for it. It was like $8 or something, and I got this huge bucket of pink Himalayan salt. So there's a tip. Like I said, keep your eyes open everywhere. Another one of that kind of thing is cedar. Cedar wood is really expensive. If you try to buy cedar wood, either a chunk of cedar wood or cedar bark or anything like that in the magical world, like if you go to a witch shop and try to get cedar, a thing of cedar this big would run you like $6 usually. If you go to the pet store and you look under pet bedding for guinea pigs, rabbits, and that kind of thing, there are cedar chips, cedar shavings, that are the exact same thing that you get in a magical witch shop. And you can get a huge bag of cedar chips for bedding, and it is 100% pure cedar. They don't use anything in it because they don't want your animals to get sick. So they don't spray it with anything. They make sure that it's very natural. And you can get a huge bag for bedding for like under $10 usually. So there's another tip for you for cedar. And cedar is a magical working wood. Let's see, I'll tell you what you can use cedar for. I'll look in here if my uses are something different, I'll tell you. Let's see. Again, this is why I love this book, though. It's really good to be able to pick up and turn to C and look under C to see, okay, I have some cedar. What will I use that for? And this book, again, is really, really good because you can go back to the index and let's say, oh, Lunasa is coming up. Look up herbs for Lunasa, and it will give you the pages to look at, and so that way you can backtrack, look at herbs that way also. There's my focus. Okay, so cedar is associated with the planets Mercury, Uranus, and Virgo. Planets Mercury and Uranus, and it is a plant of Virgo for the astrology symbols. It's an herb of consecration, a magical herb, a religious herb, a visionary herb, and it helps to invoke Odin. So anybody who's into the Norse mythology, or Odin is one of your patron gods, cedar is a good thing to include in your Odin altar. The religious history of cedar may be contemplated when reading Greaves' study of the work Thuja, Thuja, as a Latinized form of a Greek word meaning to fumigate or to sacrifice, for the fragrant wood was burned by the ancients with sacrifices. Cedars are revered in many cultures. The oldest cedars in Lebanon are held to be very sacred, and the cedar may be considered a tree of life. Fraser describes Hindu practice in which an oracle is involved when the seer breathes in the smoke of a burning cedar until she is overtaken with prophecy. So it's also an herb you can, if you're trying to do tarot cards, if you're scrying, if you're journeying with shamanic drumming, anything that has to do with divinatory work, you can use cedar in your incense. Usage. Cedar is well known for its fragrance. It's often powdered and added to incense mixtures. An incense including cedar is considered ideal in the consecration of a magical wand. Either a wand carved of cedar or a cedar blend incense may be used to invoke Odin. This incense may also be used in wickenings, which is like a baby baptism, and baby blessings. Cedar has an ancient history of being associated with the summer solstice. We may use it today when celebrating midsummer. Integrated into tarot correspondences, cedar may be used in the study of the 4 cards of the minor arcana. So 4 of wands, 4 of swords, 4 of cups, and 4 of pentacles. Its magical association with wands also lends it to usage with any card of the suit of wands. Cedar works within the major arcana when one seeks the mysteries which can be taught us by the magician card. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, there's many uses for cedar, but again, it's something to take a look at and be able to use, you know, in your own workings. Okay. So some of the more unusual things that I've collected, I wanted to show to say, always keep your eye out for stuff. Always. There's always stuff around you that you can make into your own magical workings. Either people have used them before, or you use them for an intention. For example, I don't think it's up here anymore, but a lot of people used to hang horseshoes above their doorway as a symbol of luck. That came from someplace. That it had something to do with the iron, and it was, I believe it started in the Celtic lore. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've looked that information up. But so ironwork may be associated with luck, as long as you're not working with the fae. So look around every day at stuff that you use, and you know, how could I incorporate that? So here's another one. This is, I make my own what's called cascarilla powder. Cascarilla powder is when you crush up eggshells. So when I'm getting low on this powder, my hands are filthy because I was out herbing today. When I get low on this powder, I start saving my eggs. Now this is a mixture actually of my all natural eggs that I've had from chickens, and also from just store-bought eggs. You save them, you pull out the membrane that's in the middle, the membrane in the middle, and you crush it with a mortar and pestle. You crush it. There's a couple different things you can do with it. You can buy it in most magical shops. Most magical shops will sell it in what they call a ketchup cup. It's a little plastic cup that, like fast food restaurants will give you ketchup in it. That's why they call it that. And they pack it in there really well. And if it's tightly packed and you add a little bit of water to it, the reason they pack it in those is because you can use it to, then it becomes like chalk, and you can use it to draw magical symbols, to really to draw anything. So draw the outline of your circle for ritual use. It's a good protector. I'm trying to think. I brought it up on purpose. Cast circles, protective witch bottles. So you can. It's good for protection. Yeah, that one only says protection, but it's good for a lot of things. Some people, like I said, use it as chalk to draw magical symbols with it. If you find, and this doesn't happen as much anymore, but it can happen. So if you have a community of witches around you, be aware that sometimes adverse magic things can happen. So if you find something on your doorstep that is a little unusual, before you pick it up, you can rub your hands with cascarilla powder, and that will prevent, if that is a magical working that someone left for you, a hex, something like that, it will prevent that from transferring to you, and you can get rid of it safely if you rub this powder on your hands. So that's a little aside. What else? I was going to say something else about the cascarilla powder, and I can't remember now. Hate my brain sometimes. It just poof. Okay, so that's a normal thing that, you know, just comes up sometimes and is something that you can use that's around you. Old iron nails. So I am looking at garage sales a lot. I actually had some from my grandparents. These are very old iron nails. Iron nails either can be, now I do have some, I don't think I brought them up, but I do have some that I know specifically were actual coffin nails. Coffin nails are a very specific spell ingredient that I'm not going to talk about here, but again, it's more in use of binding spells, hexes, that kind of thing. So, and I don't talk about that very much because that's not something that I want, especially beginning witches, to really get involved in too much. I mean, if there's sources out there, so if that's something you're interested in, I'm sure you can find it. I will just warn you ahead of time that that is something that whether you believe or not in it has a lot to do with whether it works. And when you do believe in it, it can be a very, very powerful thing, and it's not something to be messed with. A lot of witches believe that whatever you send out into the world comes back to you 3 times. I'm not one that believes that. I think there's a balance to the universe, and that's why there's not stuff is just dark and light, good and evil. There's an in-between use for them. But I do believe that karma will come back to get you if, you know, you do something to someone that does not deserve it. So just be careful. So coffin nails, either you can buy coffin nails from a reputable source. I have probably 4 that I've had for years and years now that I have never used. Like I said, I don't get into that kind of magic usually. I have only put 1 so-called hex on someone, which really was more of a binding, and it was a very powerful thing, and it taught me a lesson that I did use it in the right way. I have no problem with feeling like I used it in the right way, but it worked like almost too well, and I just use that as my lesson to be very careful with that kind of thing. So you can also make coffin nails. There is a way to make coffin nails, and if you guys are interested in it, I don't know, I'll think about doing a video on how to make your own coffin nails. It starts with obtaining very old iron nails, and there's a process that you can go through that puts the same intention into the old iron nails as coffin nails. Iron nails themselves are very good for protection. They're good to add to witch bottles. That is used for protection again. There's a lot of uses for them that are used for good. They also, though, can be turned into coffin nails without having had them into an actual coffin. So we'll leave that at that. There's other sources out there, and if you guys are really interested in that, let me know. Whew, look at my nose. My allergies are kicking in again. And I'll consider it. I'll kind of think about it and ask the goddess if that's something she wants me to put out there. The other thing that we can talk about, and I believe I've talked about it before, but it's been a little while, so I will bring it up again briefly. I have three jars of graveyard dirt, and each jar is a different grave. And actually I have 2 bottles of graveyard dirt and 1 bottle of dogfight dirt. Very different uses. What I will say about graveyard dirt is I would suggest, and it's certainly up to you, if you know a reputable pagan shop, a reputable person that you trust and you know personally or you have used for many years, it's okay to buy your graveyard dirt. I have never bought graveyard dirt for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't know any, I don't know how to say this. I guess partly because I feel more comfortable obtaining my own. And the way you obtain graveyard dirt is by bringing an offering with you and going to a graveyard, either of a relative or someone that you knew, so that you know you can ask that ancestor specifically if it's okay if you take some of their grave dirt with you, and or of a grave that you feel spiritually connected to for one reason or another. Again, it's something to be kind of careful about. It's not something I would do willy-nilly, and make sure you bring some kind of offering. Milk, sugar, honey. If you live in a very dry area, you can bring some really good water. A stone that you want to return to the earth and give as an offering, that's fine. Graveyard dirt, depends on what grave it came from. I have ancestors, dirt from my specific ancestors' graves that I use when I am, I have some of my grandmother's grave dirt, and hers I use when I am needing some guidance in something that I know she knew about gardening. She was an old farm girl, so anything about growing stuff, anything that I feel if she was alive I would go and ask her about, I can use some of that. Dog fight dirt, again, that's something to be careful about. I would try to only obtain your own. When you have seen the dog fight, you can go over and pick up some of the dirt afterwards. I would rub cascarilla powder on your hands first, or use gloves, because you don't want to put that intention into yourself. 20 minutes. Whew, okay. I'm going to move on. Other things that I have collected from nature, from around my house, is snake skins. I have, this was a skin that I found on my porch, I believe, and it's a very big skin. Snake skin can be used in transformation spells. If you're doing a weight loss spell, if you are doing a spell because you want to transform into a new career, keep in mind those intentions. This was a bumblebee, huge bumblebee that died. And again, I ethically source anything that I get is ethically sourced. It was already dead. It was something that I found. Any bones that I have, it's something that I found or from someone that I know is an ethically sourced person. In other words, they don't go out and kill animals for their bones. That's just me. Whatever you believe for you is okay. But I just want you to be aware. I have several cicada shells. Yeah, you can see them. So the cicadas are a bug about patience. They come up every 7 years. And they are around for a season. Oh, come on, focus. There you go. They come up for one season, and then they die, and their eggs go back underground for 7 years. So again, patience, transformation, coming up into a new being. That's a good thing for those kind of spells. Robin's egg. So that, think of a robin learning to fly. So you can use it for astral projection, fertility, baby spells, that kind of thing, new life, healing. There's all kinds of stuff that these can be used for. I have several different kinds of beehives. When I find that the bees have moved on, I collect beehives constantly. They, if it's a honeybee type situation, then they can be used for accomplishing goals. I don't think I'm going to open that one because it doesn't want to open, and I Go by the signs. Because they are incredibly hard workers and they work together. So teamwork. Where's my other one? There's a different one. This one is specifically hornets, wasps. And it happened to be in a graveyard that I collected it. So this I save specifically, again, for hexes, binding spells, protection, something that I want some deep-seated protection around myself. I can use a little bit of that. Shells. Cowrie shells, I think I said this before in my last video. The cowrie shells are something that you can find anywhere. In thrift shops, there's constantly big bottles of shells. Keep in mind, what kind of intention could you use that for? Beauty, mermaids and beauty. Any kind of water element, to add a water element to a spell. Shells can be used for protection, because like hermit crab shells, that kind of thing, can be used as protection. Oh, I forgot I was going to get out my big hermit crab, not hermit crab, my big shells that I got from North Carolina. These are what's called witch's burrs. They are sweet gum seeds, pods, seeds. And they are very sharp. My father lives in North Carolina, and I had him send me a whole thing of them. These are great for protection. These specifically are also used in hoodoo spells. You melt wax and add whatever you want to the witch's burr, and whatever other herb you want. You kind of pack it into a little ball with the witch's burr. So whatever kind of intention you want to use. And then you dip the witch's burr into wax. It seals all that in. And when you're ready to do that spell, you create your circle, do your ritual, and throw it into the fire. And it takes a couple seconds for that wax to melt off the outer edges. And when it catches fire, that carries that energy, that intention out into the world. There's another one. So, I hope I've given you some ideas. This is a huge cinnamon stick. Cinnamon, if you can find big sticks like this, that's a great wand. This is a great protection wand. There's nobody that's going to be able to, now I haven't used this one for a wand, but I would if I didn't already have, 10 wands. But you can decorate it. You can add something in the middle of it because they're hollow. You can, put crystals on it, put copper wire around it for increasing the energy. That's a great wand. Keep your eyes out. Look around you for, stuff that you want to use. I hope this was helpful. I feel like this one might have been a little bit more rambly than the other one, so I apologize if you didn't learn that much. Let me know if you guys have any more suggestions. I'm going to continue to gather up stuff and ideas. Tomorrow I want to do a video on Lunasa specifically, since it's August 1st coming up here. As an aside, yay, again, I just want to make sure I mention the Tarathon that's coming up is it next weekend? Yes, next weekend, next Saturday Sunday and Monday, I believe it is. If you have any questions or anything, look on Hermit's Cave. His channel has a bunch of stuff about it, but there's a whole bunch of people involved. Jennifer Ball is doing a segment. Jeff from Tattooed Spirit is doing a segment. Simon is doing a segment from Hermit's Cave. He is the idea maker, I believe, behind all that. I'm really excited. I plan on not doing a whole lot of my own videos to kind of promote them, because there's a whole bunch of very interesting topics, and I'm going to do my best to stay up as late as I can. I'm sure I have to work on Monday, but I'm going to try. So I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow. Blessings.